Hi, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast, episode number 186. And I'm your host, Adam Bell. And joining me, as always, is my co-host, Peter Nikolaidis. Hi, I'm not gonna. Well, hi, Peter. It's great to see you. You
Thanks,
look.
Adam. It's great to see you too.
I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
so so there used to be a thing back in the Paradigm offices when we were primarily an IT shop where we would have a recurring calendar event about 3 times a year to let us know when Mercury would go retrograde.
uh-huh. Is this that time?
Oh yeah, it is. And I only had
Oh,
that thought this morning when I realized one of my home security cameras has been going click, 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 click for the last couple days.
is that because the light's going on and off in the room?
Nope. Some time ago, I noticed that the Sense 8, SENS number 8 cameras that I bought, their website was down.
Yeah.
And also their app in the App Store had not been updated in quite a long time.
Well, that's interesting.
And as
Barely an
of today,
inconvenience.
super inconvenient actually. And what I just noticed this morning was that the cameras no longer, I can't load the app anymore. It says error, connection to server timed out. So apparently you need to, you have to connect to their server, which brokers a connection back directly into my cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. And here I am getting ready to leave town for a short time on a brief vacation, and I don't have my home security system anymore. So I had to take a quick trip over to Best Buy to see what they had in stock, and I can't find any cameras over there that work with Apple HomeKit.
Uh-oh.
And I want something that works with HomeKit. And I guess I have to go to Amazon and see what I can get overnighted because I want something that's in HomeKit. I would prefer something that let me stream my video to my own like Dropbox or Google Drive account as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to something else. But it's looking like I'm going to have to buy like a Nest or a Eufy or something to to just like stream to someone else and suck up a few to $10 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
So
So I think I saw that come across to, friend of the show, Scott Wilsey. He does Nest. I don't know if he does Nest. I do Nest. I have a Nest at my office.
yep.
And it's really easy.
I know, and I guess I'm gonna have to go that route. The thing that I've been trying to do is get away from all the big guys,
Yeah.
and like with the exception of Apple, I guess, just because they've been the best. They seem to have my interests. Our interests seem to align the most,
Mm-hmm.
I should say.
So
Um,
Google order Nest for Peter
yeah,
showed up in his browser so that he just has to click order. So it's done. You're welcome.
great. Thank you, thank you. I mean, I could just say a word, send me a Blink or a Ring, and she would have it here tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I'm at this point, I'm just like, to heck with it. Just give me something. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Hide right in the middle of everybody.
yep, there you go.
All right. Well, good. Well,
Great.
welcome to the, the information, mafia here or whatever we are. It's
Great. Great to be here.
great to be here. All right. So we're gonna talk about some. You are a security expert, are you not?
I like to think so.
Yeah, you've got a lot of letters after your name that kind of say so.
And at this point, I've got a lot of years behind me that
A lot
kind
of
of say so too. So,
gray hair
oh,
experience.
don't get me started.
So LastPass,
Yeah,
they've had breaches in the past.
they've had some issues.
They, one of the and one of the reasons they're so public about their breaches today is because they had a breach before, covered it up, and a big old stink came about it. So
Yeah.
so now they're kind of like a big redheaded stepchild out there that
Yeah.
everybody wants to try to hack. So, do you have any LastPass customers?
I do not have any LastPass customers,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of my father. Haven't had time to migrate him over though, but
Mm-hmm.
pretty much decided that I'm going to be moving everyone over from LastPass at this point, probably moving to 1Password.
Okay.
And it was a toss up between 1Password and Bitwarden, but I have customers who require that they want to basically control everything on their own infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So for those folks, I'm going to probably recommend Bitwarden, not the hosted option, but the self-hosted option.
And
Those
I've
are
heard
those.
good things about that.
Yeah.
What about Keeper?
Don't know that one. Haven't reviewed it. I've not reviewed it.
So it's got, it's got some. So one of our peers, Kevin Landers,
Yep.
he uses Keeper for his clients,
Yep.
and our other friend of the show, Tim Richter, he uses what's the one that you said?
Bitwarden or
Bitwarden.
1Password.
So
Yep.
he uses and tests that as well as Keeper.
Cool.
So do you are you up on the story with LastPass? Do you want to share with our listeners what exactly happened with LastPass and why they even care?
Well, the long story short is they did suffer a data breach. Hackers were able to get access, I believe, originally in August
Mm-hmm.
to a developer environment, and then back in November they were able to then go further into a production environment. Although LastPass is saying that they haven't suffered like that people's that customers' data was not at risk, that your passwords were safe. There are other people who are speculating that that may not be the case.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. And at this point, I've seen enough security experts, mostly because friend of the show, Scott Wilsey, keeps on sending me more and more examples
Mm-hmm.
of security experts saying death to LastPass. I resisted it for some time because it is very easy when a company has a breach to jump on the burn them at the stake bandwagon.
Yeah.
And, I do believe that eventually everyone's going to have a breach, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. The thing that I did not, wasn't recalling though, is that LastPass has actually had a few breaches. This is not the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had some incidents. And when I started looking a little closer, they've kind of done, I don't know that they've, I don't know if I would say they tried to cover them up as much as weren't fully transparent as to what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I draw the line, right? If you try to cover it up or you try to minimize it when everyone else around you is saying, dude, your hair's on fire. And you're like, no, this is fine. That's when I start to
Yeah.
get pretty concerned. So yeah.
It's well, and so what I've read, and then I also sat Galactic Advisors, Bruce McCulley's company. Um, I'm a Galactic Advisor, or I'm a subscriber. So,
Yep.
um, what they described was in August, like you said, the developer database was compromised. They took it off site, and they didn't get anything at that point. But what they did is they were able to gather enough information to fish an internal employee,
Yep.
and the internal employee is where they got more information to supposedly get into the database, as far as they don't they don't encrypt, or they encrypt all of our data. The
Yep.
usernames and passwords are encrypted.
Yep.
What's not encrypted is the URLs. So they know that Peter Nikolaidis has credentials at regionsbank.com.
Yep.
They know that. They could probably extrapolate your email address and figure that out.
Yes.
And that's where they could start more efficiently phishing you.
Yep.
But it is my understanding to date that no passwords were compromised because they were encrypted.
Right. And the thing, and this is where a bunch of security experts are getting on the bandwagon, and I'm with them this time, is like there's a lot of other data, like you said, the URLs and the metadata around those passwords in the password fields, in the password vaults, which are not encrypted. And it's like, why not? What
Yeah,
it does,
encrypt everything because
yeah, exactly.
because I'll tell you, I am now concerned because there's the notes field in LastPass.
Yep.
And in notes, I'm assuming all of my data is encrypted because that's what they told me. This whole database is encrypted. So I travel. Well, a nice thing to have is if I ever lost my passport, is a photographic copy of my passport, which is in LastPass.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I need to know my known traveler number. Where's that? It's in
LastPass
a note
as a
in
note.
LastPass.
Now those notes are supposed to be encrypted, but I'm thinking like there are other fields, and I don't even remember at this point which fields are and are not encrypted. But there definitely are fields now that has come up in this discussion that are not encrypted.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've made the mistake. I've definitely have put things into other fields, assuming, like backup codes, two-factor authentication codes. I would put those in the notes field of a password, and not in a secure note item, but the notes field of a password. And I'm thinking at this point, those might be part of the stuff that's not encrypted. And I'm like, great.
So my 2FA is now compromised, whether they have my password or not. Oh, they don't need it because they have
you got
my
the 2FA.
Yay!
Great. Yeah, and there were a lot more technical details about like the number of iterations and passes during the initial encryption process, where it's like it should be doing at least 100,000, and they've only been doing 500 or 5,000 or something like that. So, yeah, the TLDR is get off LastPass, quick, and change your passwords.
So before we leave it, why would you take a picture of your QR code, Peter? Why would you want to save that?
Something that they actually recommend you don't do, but you and I have gone through this enough that we know why you would want to.
Why would you ever want to do that?
Because you might be stuck using an inferior app like the Microsoft Authenticator, which doesn't actually let you transfer stuff when you move to a new phone, and it requires you to set up everything all over again. And that can be pretty inconvenient if you need to reset up your authenticator because you've lost your authenticator. Luckily, you usually have backup codes, or you have alternative factors like SMS or phones. But I work with some institutions where they disable those, right? So that means now it's a call to the help desk. Okay, I get it. That's not that bad. But in a self-managed thing, if you've lost your backups and stuff, I sort of consider a snapshot of that QR code as a backup, right? So I can see wanting to keep a copy of it, but you got to keep it encrypted.
Yeah.
Or so you thought you did, right? Like, yeah, I did. At least I thought I did.
That.
Bingo. Yeah, insert that sound bite there. Oh man.
Yeah. So well, I use Google, the Google Authenticator over Microsoft.
Yeah.
But I like the Microsoft push authentication.
Bingo.
That's really nice. The Google Authenticator doesn't have the push. So it just, pull a code, you got to type a code. And fortunately, the Google, every time I move phones, it backs up the database, it restores the database. I've got all my authentication codes, but the same, as we've talked in the past, Microsoft doesn't do that. It backs it up, it restores it, but then it says scan the QR code for the line items in there. I'm like, why would I don't have the QR code again. Enter the So you might as well don't even do it, just delete them all. But fortunately, I didn't lose my phone. I was migrating from an old phone to a new phone, so I could go in, turn it off,
Yes. Yep.
turn it back on.
uh,
So while we're on the topic of MFA, multi-factor authentication,
mother.
remind me why so many security people say SMS is a terrible source of MFA.
In general, it's because it has been trivial to get a hold of certain cellular carriers.
Mm-hmm.
Pretend you are a hacker can pretend that they are the owner of the cell phone and get the carrier to reissue a SIM card to the attacker. And suddenly you're receiving their SMS codes, or the hacker is receiving your SMS codes. That's
So
one of the ways.
is it still that bad? Or the carriers still that stupid?
They've gotten better at it. Well, some of them have gotten better at it.
Mm-hmm.
Verizon has clamped down a lot on that, cracked down a lot on that. T-Mobile, I don't have any experience with, but I've heard that they're really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're using, like one of these smaller companies, which is just like a Verizon reseller, I don't know. I would not assume that they're great, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, so I would not hold my breath and betting that they're going to be the most secure. Now,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing is, when you have data breaches like what just happened with Twitter and this LastPass thing, when the metadata gets out, it's when you prove that you are who you say you are by knowing someone's social security number or mother's maiden name or the street you grew up on or other stuff that's out there. It's really trivial to aggregate all this data if you have a lot of it out there, and most people have it all out there.
Mm-hmm.
So these big data breaches, when these things happen, it just makes it so much easier for the for an attacker to gather this data on you.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing is, like you said, is it's best just to sort of be a zebra and fly below radar. But with the cost of computing power dropping all the time, it's getting easier to automate these sort of attacks. So may as well just say, like scrape up everything you can. Start with the A's. Oh, look, Adam. And then, like, let's go with Adam, A, B, A. Yeah, Adam Bell. Let's go and scrape him, do all kinds of searches, aggregate stuff. And then it's like, oh, here's your profile for Adam Bell. And
Mm-hmm.
now let's go and just become Adam Bell and see what we can get. The more stuff becomes automated, just like spam and phishing links, just
Mm-hmm.
like sending out viruses. Stuxnet was a very targeted piece of malware. It still went all around the globe. WannaCry supposedly started as a targeted piece of malware, but it went all around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And though it may not have intended to do that, are you drinking already?
It's tea.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna quit this and run downstairs and grab a drink myself.
It is bourbon. I lied to you just then.
Oh,
It's Four Roses single barrel.
channeling our friend of the show, Kevin Landers.
Oh.
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna let you talk for a second. I gotta go grab a drink.
So, one thing that I've seen, you were talking about SMS. So one thing that I've noticed is with my new phone, there is no longer a SIM. They're doing the virtual SIM. And resume. All right. Yeah, welcome back.
I thought you would have kept on going.
So I thought about it, but I wanted to ask you a question, and I couldn't answer my own question since I didn't know the answer. And I was so so virtual SIMs. So my iPhone 14 Pro
eSIMs
doesn't have a real SIM card. It's now
right.
an eSIM.
Yep.
Why?
Why?
Why? I mean, because that's one thing I like about the SIM is, you get a new phone, you just pull the SIM out of the old phone and plug it into the new phone, and the new phone, does whatever it does, power it off, power it back on, and then it goes. But the eSIM, had to be registered with Verizon. They had to provision it, then they sent it to me. and I can't change it on Verizon's website.
So I have not looked into eSIMs. I don't remember, but I don't even remember right now. Are eSIMs tied always to the carrier? I don't even know. At this point, I shouldn't even comment on this because I really don't know.
Yeah, okay. So let's do a little research on that and maybe we'll have an answer on eSIMs. What's funny is I wrote down a topic, podcast BSers, which would be this would have been a perfect time for you to be a podcast BSer. You have sent me some links to some different articles, and I listened to the one part that was pertinent, but I let it keep running. And the two podcasters, one was asking the other questions, and she was completely BSing the answer. She didn't know the answer at all. She had no facts at all. And she was like speaking authoritatively, and he was like, actually, he was speaking hypothetically, and he was tossing her up a softball, and instead she whiffed it, and he was having to correct her, even though she spoke like she knew exactly what she was talking about.
Huh. I mean, it sounds like something you and I might try.
Well, but we do quantify it. We will say, I don't know, but this is my best guess.
So what's kind of funny is I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts this past weekend, and the hosts every now and then put together a fictional magazine articles.
Oh yeah?
Titles, just the titles.
Yeah.
And then they say there's three guys, they'll put together a fictional magazine title, and the other two have to guess what the article is about. And one of the guys made up this study about people who go running, and how they did a study of people who prefer to go with music and those who prefer to go without music, or headphones, AirPods, whatever. And he said, and the study found, first they did those who ran with headphones would go run with headphones. Those who went without it ran without it. And then they flipped it around, and then they tested, and everyone ran without podcast or without headphones or anything like that. And, like those who ran without, demonstrated that they were more in tune and they were able to relax better and perform better and all that. And all, and the other two hosts, like, they didn't realize that it was all just made up. It was like, but you were speaking so authoritatively. I thought this was true. And I was listening to it, and I'm like, damn it, that means that I have to stop running with my head, because I like listening to music. And and then I had to remind myself, even after they said that, part of me still wanted to believe.
Yeah, I want to believe that this is true.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's true, Peter, because I know that when I've been on an elliptical machine, and if I'm going for, once I get mindless at it, you're just going. If I have a fast beat song in my head, before I know it, I'm matching the beat, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
no,
I'm calling it true.
Well, anyway, though, his thing is that you can relax more and let go more without music. But again, even though that's against what I normally do, I was like, I wanted that just to like support the whole mindfulness and relaxation thing. I was like, yeah, I should try that. Anyway.
But one thing I do, of course, I don't run as much as you. So, I mean, you've run exponentially more than me. But when I run, a beat gets in my head, and before I know it, I'm doing even because I don't run with music. Yes. I don't feel safe running with music. Right. I need to hear what's around me.
Yep.
That's my own shortcomings. But before I know it, I'm like, I'm singing a song, and it's not like the song. It's like a particular chorus that's just a something to repeat the repetition of what I'm feeling. I don't know.
Well, I deliberately choose my running playlist. It's all I have 4 different albums. They're all called Energy Running, and they're all at 180 beats per minute.
There you go.
And that is deliberate. And I resisted that for some time, but I do find that I do some of my best running at around 180 beats. Mm-hmm. And and it's all uplifting, motivational type of, beats.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that like when I was on my first ultra, I did the 50K last year, um, I didn't have music for the first couple of hours at least, because I
Mm-hmm.
had just reset my phone, or no, I had just upgraded, I think, upgraded the operating system, and it had not re-downloaded all of my playlists.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out in the middle of rural Vermont with no bandwidth, and I couldn't stream my music until I
Mm-hmm.
got near the top of the mountain. Suddenly I had cell signal, and all of a sudden I noticed, I was like, oh, I wonder if I can do some music. And I definitely immediately felt, an extra spring in my stride.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that this is probably a bit deeper than our normal podcast here, but I think music, it gets into your spirit, and there are so many, there are so many songs that I know the Bible scripture from the songs way better than I do if I try to memorize them.
There you go. No, music, I totally agree with you on that. Even if it's just remembering a jingle, music helps you remember things. I mean, you might remember two all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles.
Onions on a sesame seed bun.
Boom. Right. I'd like
Point
to
proven.
give the world a, you know, right.
Yeah.
Right. So those are things that are stuck in our heads for decades now. Stupid television commercial jingles.
Yeah. We'll remember them past our own kids.
So if that works for that, I can totally imagine that, like there's a reason that you sing hymns on Sundays. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So cool. All right. Then before we leave security, cookies. A
I
lot of
like chocolate
people,
chip.
I like chocolate chip. I actually like chocolate chip too. It's one of my favorites. Cookies in the browser. They're good and they're bad. And I'll give you an,
That's
because
really deep, Adam.
yeah, they're good and they're bad. But
Like they
so I had
taste
one,
good, but they're bad
my,
for you.
yeah, my marketing person contacted me earlier in the week. She's like, I need to delete my cookies because I'm having a problem with the website. And I said, clearly you don't surf porn, because all IT people know how to clear, that clear history, clear cookies, because they are surfing porn. So I'm so proud of you. You don't know how to do this. This is good. So I showed her how to clear her
Clearly.
cookies. But cookies. So what is a cookie, Peter?
A cookie is just a temporary, well, it doesn't have to be temporary, it could be permanent. It's a file. It's just a storage mechanism to save a file on your browser.
Mm-hmm.
And a website can request the creation of a cookie. And if your browser, by default, they usually accept them. And it's just a way to say, it's just like saying, hey, web browser, I'd like to make a bit of a note here. Can you just hold this for me?
Mm-hmm.
And the next time you come back, I'm going to ask you for that cookie, but that note back,
Mm-hmm.
if that's cool with you. And so usually they're used to identify themselves or to identify the website, because the hypertext transport protocol, HTTP, was never created with state in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a stateless thing. So it's just sending, you send me some data, I send you some data, you send me some data, I send you some data. That's the extent of the HTTP protocol. It
Right.
was never like you send me some data and identify yourself, and then I'm going to remember who you are so we can resume this conversation next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's what cookies let you do.
Okay.
They let the programmer of the website make a note with whatever data they want to put there and save it on your computer's local hard drive. And then when you come back, the browser says like, oh, you're at google.com. I have a cookie here for google.com. Here you go, google.com.
Mm-hmm.
And the web browser looks at it and says, oh, it's Adam. He's back again.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Well,
cookies in a nutshell.
how long do those cookies live?
I don't remember if there is a default setting on cookies or if they're just permanent. I really don't recall. Back about 20 years ago when I was doing web development all the time, I could tell you right off the top of my head. At this point, I don't even recall now, though.
I don't think that there is a default. I mean, there may be a browser default if you don't set anything,
Yeah,
but really the cookie can be set by whoever is designing the website and the
that's
cookie.
if you want to just speak authoritatively right now, I will just nod and say yes.
Yeah. So we've run across some persistent cookies that
Mm-hmm.
never expire,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a problem because this cookie, which now has this transaction and username and password and remembers that Peter has come to this website and he's allowed to come to this website, and I authorize Peter to come to this website, and this cookie never expires, so he never has to enter his password again.
Yep.
Microsoft does that with Office
Yep.
365 Global Administrator account.
Really? They seem to they seem to prompt me to re-log in even if I just look at them funny.
Yeah. So the global admin, the Office 365 global admin account drops a persistent cookie that never expires. There is a setting you can turn that off. But so cookies for me, yeah, I use Veeam. So
Yep.
Veeam requires every single month that I report my usage. It's kind of but I can't log in to the website directly from the link that they send me. So I have to log into the website,
Mm-hmm.
authenticate, and then open the link that they send me because the cookie is created. I've got a login session in the browser. Then I can actually get to the website that they send me.
Yep. I've definitely come across stuff like that. I actually was fighting with something very similar to this now. I have been trying to order some I've been trying to order role-playing game books, a new
Mm-hmm.
version of from Pinnacle Entertainment, the makers of Savage Worlds, my favorite role-playing system. And I was part of their Kickstarter backing for their latest campaign. And they've got this super convoluted method that you have to go through when you buy something on Kickstarter, when you back them, when it comes time to actually redeem the product to go to their website.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad when you have to make a video on YouTube telling your customers how to redeem their code to buy your product. And even that didn't work because the email address I associated to Kickstarter was different than the one that I use on their store to buy things.
Yeah.
Because I have a different email address everywhere. So that didn't work. And that added, and then, it's just like I've just gone back and forth. And thank you, Sarah Martinez from Pinnacle Entertainment, your customer service. You're doing great. Thank you so much for helping me through this. At the time of this recording, we're not quite done yet. So please see my latest email, but I think we're close.
Yeah. You're doing a great job. At least you care.
Unlike the people at Apple who had me again restore my
Oh
phone from a
no.
backup. I did it again last week, and it took maybe an hour for the same problem to show up. And I have an email from the customer, the senior advisor, and I've emailed him back twice saying, "Dude, same problem's happening. It's not fixed." And
Mm-hmm.
now here's the other part. Do you know that you can use your MacBook as a Bluetooth speaker for your phone?
I did not know that.
So what do you use? Do you use Beats or whatever you use for your Bluetooth?
I'm Jabra only.
Jabra. Okay. So when you go into when you have a call on an iPhone, you know how you can touch on the phone icon and take to speaker mode.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have Bluetooth connected, your Bluetooth devices will show up there too, and you can
Mm-hmm.
choose them.
Yeah.
And if you're on the same Wi-Fi network and you're close to your Mac, you can choose that as well.
That's very interesting.
It's cool because you can do that with an iPad as well. So you can just say, hand this over to the iPad, right? It's
So
really cool, except lately, as soon as I try to take the call and move it over to the Mac, it hangs up.
nah.
And this is great.
Oh.
Like I'm dialing into a WebEx for a client or something like that. And I'm like, hey, Peter, click. And then I have to dial in again. And I'd like, you know what? Maybe that was just a one-time thing. Let's try it again. Fail. Okay.
So there are some really cool things that you described there. This integration between the Apple devices and Ecosphere. How are they securing that? How?
Well, I have not looked at any of the Apple white papers on security for some time.
All right,
The last time I did it was a
BS is
long time
coming.
ago.
Yeah.
Okay. I was very impressed by the way they were doing the docs that I did read a long time ago. I confess I have not read those in a long time. But Apple seems to, they've got a pretty good track record when it comes to security. They don't have, for me, is a good track record with just freaking usability.
Yeah. Peter.
Exactly. I end up speaking Decepticon all the time.
Yeah. Because, well, so Apple wise, I've got my
noticed.
Ultra. It's big, it's green, it's really heavy, it's got a big screen.
Now, when did you get it?
2 days ago.
Okay, because I got a note, I got an invitation to share your
Fitness.
Share your fitness with Adam Bell, and I was like, "Yay, he's back!"
I'm back.
It was great. It's great to have you back. We're happy. We're happy to have you here.
So actually, yeah, I wore it to the gym this morning. I do like, I'm kind of I've got a character flaw, and that, when you tell me, Adam, do you want $1 million? No, because there's got to be a catch. Yeah, there's got to be a catch. It can't be, all right, I'm going to have to pay taxes on it. I'm going to get audit. I'm going to lose 45% of that, but it's free, $550,000.
You get to keep 55% of it.
Yeah. So I'm like, no, I don't want it. Well, that's kind of the way I was with the Apple Watch the first time. I was like, I want to experience it. And then I hated it. And then I missed it. And and now I've got the new one. I'm like, there's all kinds of cool features that are awesome that I wish I had known the first time around.
And one of those things, so a couple things have changed since you ditched your Apple Watch. Number one is waking it up at night when you're in sleep mode. You don't have to roll the stupid crown anymore. You just press and hold the button.
Yeah, nice.
I
don't ever wake up at night though.
I wish I could say that.
Yeah.
One thing, however, though, on the Ultra, in addition to battery life being acceptable as opposed to the previous, call quality is much better.
Well, go ahead.
Well, and I proved this with friend of the show, Scott Wilsey, the other day. He called me. And I took the call on the phone because I didn't on the watch because I didn't have the phone with me. But I was talking with him and like holding my drink in my hand and talking to him and stuff. Like I didn't put my hand in my
to
pocket.
The phone. You didn't even have your earbuds in.
Correct, using the phone mic. And I asked him because I was there, with the phone like this. Took a drink and stuff. I was like, just curious, how does the call sound right now? He's like, oh, it sounds okay. Like not great, but not terrible.
Yeah.
But like, and again, I wasn't like sticking my hand in my pocket or anything.
Yeah.
But just, and I wasn't like walking so that my hand wasn't like behind me and stuff, but just generally keeping my hand around in front of me and stuff. He was able to hear me, and it didn't really make a difference if I held it up to my mouth or anything like that. So they've definitely improved the call quality on these guys.
So I have a dumb consumer question. Did the Apple Watch 8 have a speaker and mic on it?
Yeah.
Really?
They've had, you could have done that for a long time.
I didn't know that was a feature.
You can't play music with them.
Okay.
But the 8s, the 6s, the 4s, oh yeah, they've had that for like a long time.
Was the chime there before? The top of the hour chime?
So that I think is something that might have come along in a software update, but it was not a hardware feature. But I noticed that top of the hour chime at one point. I've recently turned that off though. So that's just a setting. It's probably been there the whole time though. But I think it got activated by default, whereas it wasn't beforehand.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I was so happy because I cut off my Apple Watch in August.
Yep.
And I got the new one now. And it brought in all my settings, and I have 0 notifications. I don't want to get notified. I don't want my wrist to vibrate for any reason unless it's a 911 situation. That irritates the crap out of me.
Yep, I get it.
And it remembered all that stuff. So that was fantastic from a restore situation. Because
Good.
because I don't want to know when you complete a workout. I want to go. Well, you complete too many workouts in a day. Just so you know, my friend. I mean, you're like Peter walked. He did yoga. He did Krav Maga. He punched somebody in the street. He. and and then he meditated.
And then he married. Yeah, it
Was,
can get a little excessive. I will
yeah.
give you that. And I have definitely cranked back on my notifications. Mostly, I'm trying to get more particular with the iOS 16 and Mac OS Ventura and WatchOS. What are we? 9.2, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The focus settings.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better about using the focus. I am sort of torn between making them automated versus, me setting them. But I've definitely gotten more into manually setting a focus. Like we're on this call, right now, I'm just going to say, do not disturb until the end of the event. There you go.
There you go.
And, I do have it set. So like when I'm in a meditation app, just do not disturb. Don't want to hear about it. And at 4:30 every day, I go into personal mode.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get Slack notifications. My work email doesn't buzz anymore, anything like that.
Yeah.
So, I think focus is your friend. But if you don't want any notifications on your watch, great, turn it off. I know for you, that was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done this in, God, it's been got to be like 7 years or so. But I remember, I turned off Siri and I turned off autocomplete and autocorrect.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, I loved my phone because I wasn't getting mad at those two things.
Yeah.
So, so it's sometimes turning off features is a good thing.
So one thing that I will give, you know, nods to is, so this time around I went with the cellular. And
Okay.
that has been a big frustration removal having the cellular, because
Okay.
the phone would then not be so tied to to the watch would be not so tied to my phone that it was, telling me when it was not connected, and
Yep.
then it lost so much of its functionality when it wasn't connected. And the reason I bought the Apple Watch and was Audible. I wanted to be able to listen to my books on Audible on my phone on the track, or on my watch on the tractor, without having to take the phone with me.
Yep.
And now that it's on cellular, all that stuff syncs better. It
Yep.
syncs way better, even though it shouldn't, because it had wireless before, and it had, everything, but everything is a lot more seamless with the cellular.
Yep.
So
And the cellular coverage, cellular functionality of the Ultra is definitely better than it was on the 6.
mhm.
So I don't know. My speculation, I'm sure there are smarter people have done teardowns to verify this, but I think that the insides are a little different from the Ultras and the 8s and the 6s. I
Yeah.
think it might have a better chip, but it definitely, I've noticed that I get less flaky cellular behavior with the Ultra than I did with the 6 and the 4.
It is better. The dilemma, and I actually wanted to call you this week and I didn't, but I wanted to call you from my Jabra to get the quality. Every time I call somebody on my Jabra on my iPhones, they tell me that the quality is terrible. Like I can hear them fine, but my
Yep.
mic pickup is terrible. But I
Yep.
don't want iPods, because you sound fine in your iPods,
The AirPods.
AirPods,
Yeah, I sound fine on the AirPods until I don't.
until you go into Decepticon mode. And you're the only person I know that even has that problem.
Apparently, it's a very rare thing.
Are you sure you don't have any radiation or metal
No,
or magnets, or no, you're
no,
not sure?
no, not sure at all. Not at all.
Do you remember your time in the CIA?
No,
No. Okay. Okay. Well, that explains everything.
doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah. Did you ever watch The Recruit? Speaking of CIA,
I don't think I ever did.
it's a good one. It's on Netflix.
Okay. I
Um, yeah, it's a
think you
good one.
mentioned it before. It sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
I mentioned it. It wasn't impressive to look at like the advertisement or anything on that, but it was a fun show to watch.
All right. Well, I'll add it to the list.
Yeah. There are some willful suspense of disbelief, you know, it's like if you were in the CIA, would you really do this? Yeah, I don't think you would.
Okay. I don't think you would. All right.
Yeah.
What would Jerry Seinfeld say?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you
I don't
would.
think you do. So,
So then I also I have a job opportunity right now with the Harvest Bee Shift in Hereford, Texas, the Cavaness Beef Packers Limited.
the
They
what?
they are recruiting me to be on second shift for working in the beef packers.
I didn't realize that Sublime was doing so poorly.
Yeah, I didn't either. But apparently my resume is still out. I haven't had a resume active on the internet minimum 14 years because that's the age of my company, but longer than that. But the uh Cavaness Beef Packers Limited in Texas, they're reaching out to me to be a second shift, and I've got a great match. I mean, they matched me up. They said I will be successful at this job.
I mean, you're a big guy, you're strong, you work out, you have a good work ethic. I think they're probably right. You probably would be successful at this job.
Yeah, I couldn't be bullied because I'm not taking that.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah.
That is
So
great.
so I have a future in beef packing if the whole computer thing doesn't work out.
It's good to have backups, man. It is
Mhm.
good to have backups.
Well, I know what it is. It's Google because you know we were talking about my wife and I were talking nowhere near Google, but somewhere near Google about you know being in Texas, and I'm like I don't mind Texas. I like Texas as good as Tennessee.
There you go. I mean,
Google's finding
Texas,
me a job.
especially at this time of year. Oh man. I mean, I feel that way. I still get constantly, I'm getting, LinkedIn. Like my LinkedIn profile says that I am, a VC, so senior manager, that kind of thing, director level stuff. That's where I do my work these days. And, when people want to say like, hey, senior engineer positions. I'm like, not really, but thank you. But then they're like, we have an entry level analyst position
Yeah.
for you. Like, 2000 called and they want my resume back. I'm like, come on, what the heck?
Yeah.
Seriously. And that's what no, I'm not going to work with you because you obviously didn't even look at my resume.
You
You're
didn't
not,
bother.
can't, no, you can't even be bothered to, then I can't be bothered to reply to you.
That's because it didn't really come from a person. It came from Chat GBT.
You're more. I haven't done any fun chat GPT things this past week. I had an idea though. What the heck was it? Oh, dang. Yeah,
Well,
this is why you got to move quickly on these things. I completely forgot what it was. I had a what I thought for me anyway was a creative idea for chat GPT.
well,
But I
and I've
didn't do
seen
it.
a lot of news articles on it since you and I talked about it.
Yeah. Oh, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Yeah, no question. So yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's got a lot of potential,
Hmm.
but also potential for abuse.
Yeah. So when does Skynet actually come online? I mean, it's
Skynet came
online.
on. No, Skynet came online years ago. I forget when the actual date in Terminator was, but
Yeah.
that happened. That
Yeah.
is coming. That has come and gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget what year. Yeah. Skynet is online.
Yeah.
Um, but it hasn't taken over yet.
No, not yet, but it will. Give it
It,
time.
and it won't matter to us because we'll be dead.
Give it time. I don't know. It might happen before that. So. Well, on that note, I think we should probably put a pin in this one. What do you think?
Stick a pin in it. All right. I took us in. You take us
I'll
out.
take us out. Well, listeners, if you want to reach us, the best way you can do that is by visiting blurringthelinespodcast.com. Full stop. I shouldn't have to go on, but I will.
Yeah, I shouldn't have to, but now I am.
Adam is at Sublime Comp on Twitter. He's also at sublimecomp.com. That's his website, his company website. I think you can still find him on Facebook, but I don't remember right now.
I'm still
Good luck.
there.
Yeah, he's still there. Right. If you want to find me, look for the best thing is just Nikolaidis.com. That's for me personally. If you want to talk about yoga, it's yogawithpeter.com. IT, information security, cybersecurity, paradigmcc.com. I am no longer actively posting on Twitter, as we discussed on the latest Friends with Beer. However, I am just what people would call shit posting on Twitter, just making fun of Elon. But I am starting to get slightly active on Mastodon at Nikolaidis at infosec.exchange. And, you know, the things that I've heard, it's true. There's like useful, good, friendly content over there on Mastodon. So I'm happy. I'm actually kind of liking the fact that there's a barrier to entry to keep the riffraff out.
So let me know when I need to be there.
I think you should come over. I think you should set up an
getting
account.
Close, huh?
Yeah, I think you should find a Mastodon server and do it. And I honestly, I thought we would have done that on an episode by now.
All right, let's schedule it for next week.
Next episode. So I don't even know what my schedule is next week. I am on vacation. So I don't know if I'm going to be near a computer or not. So there's a good chance that we won't record next week.
Well, when they hear us next.
By then, we will get Adam online with Mastodon.
And it's going to be fantastic.
It will. But before that happens, I think we should push the big red button.
Big red button?